Content warning. This audiobook contains strong language, sexual themes, supernatural elements, and graphic depictions of death. The author recommends this work for audiences aged 18 and over. If you let your 6-year-old listen, that's on you. Dark Matter, The Order of the Hidden Cross, by Ian Bailey, published by Ashlar Press. Copyright 2025. Chapter 6. Caius and Flavius. "Oi, priest, wake up!" Flavius's voice cut through the stillness, sharp and urgent, like a blade slipping through the cold night air. The small chamber beneath the Vatican was cold, lit only by dim, flickering candlelight. Stone walls, heavy with the weight of history, pressed in from all sides. The air was thick with the smell of incense and damp stone. Somewhere, deep in the hidden corridors, something shifted. "Leave him," Caius muttered darkly, his words laced with a hint of mockery. "Let him dream. He's no doubt somewhere better than this place." Flavius crouched near the slumped figure of a priest who had fallen into an unnaturally deep sleep, a leather-bound book lying open on his lap. His hand instinctively hovered near his side, where a silvered cross dangled alongside a dagger, both more symbols of duty than faith. "We're not here for dreams, Caius," Flavius hissed. "This isn't a game. It's stirring again." A long silence passed between them, broken only by the faint sound of breathing from the corner of the room. Caius leaned against the stone wall, his eyes shadowed by the hood of his black robe. He crossed his arms, indifferent, his lips curving into a sneer. "Stirring," he echoed, his voice dripping with disdain. "It's been stirring for 1,000 years, and nothing has ever come of it." Flavius turned his gaze toward the back of the chamber, where the shadows seemed to ripple like water. The figure behind the iron door was not visible, but Flavius could feel his presence, heavy and undeniable, like gravity itself. "You don't know that," Flavius whispered, the weight of doubt settling in his chest. "You've heard the stories. They say he—" "I don't care about stories," Caius snapped, cutting him off. "We do our job. We guard the room, we obey the order, and we don't ask questions." "Yeah," Flavius muttered, his eyes still fixed on the darkened corners of the room. "But what if we're wrong? What if he's not dangerous? What if he's something else entirely?" Caius's sneer widened. "Wrong about what? That he's dangerous? He's barely alive. The priests pump him so full of drugs he's more dead than alive." "Then why guard him at all?" Flavius countered, his voice trembling with the questions he'd never dared to ask aloud before. "Why keep him locked away? Why the secrecy? What if—" "Enough," Caius growled, pushing off the wall. "Stop letting the darkness get to your head, Flavius. This is your first rotation, I get it. The silence does things to you, makes you think strange thoughts. But nothing's going to change. He's been down here longer than anyone's been alive. This is our duty. You keep your mouth shut, you keep your head down, and you don't question the order. Ever." Flavius's grip tightened on his blade, his knuckles white under the dim light. He'd been trained to follow orders without hesitation, raised in the solitude of the monastery, never knowing the outside world. But in this cold, damp chamber, something had changed, something had shifted. There was a pull in the air, a vibration that thrummed in his bones, like an ancient memory trying to claw its way to the surface. Flavius stared at the sleeping priest, his whispers from earlier ringing in his ears, fragments of forgotten names, warnings half-spoken. The priest seemed so certain, his voice shaking with something between fear and awe. What did he know that Flavius didn't? Flavius's gaze flickered back to the iron bars at the back of the chamber. In the depths of the shadows, the figure stirred again, not a movement of the body, but of something deeper, an energy, a pulse that seemed to ripple through the air, brushing against Flavius's skin like a cold breath. He had never dared to look too closely before, but now he felt something he hadn't felt before. A connection, a presence, something not right. For a brief moment, Flavius could almost hear a voice, distant and fractured, echoing through the corridors of his mind. It was not his own.
Help me.
Flavius, Caius's voice cut through the strange haze. Stay focused. The moment passed and Flavius blinked, the strange sensation fading as quickly as it had come. He stood up, shaking off the growing unease, but the question still lingered, like a bad smell near the chamber pots, gnawing at him. What if the threat they were guarding wasn't a threat at all? What if they weren't guarding a monster? What if they were guarding salvation? And what if the church's greatest fear wasn't losing control, but being exposed to the truth? Chapter 7. Pawns in Time. "She's dying! We gotta do something!" one of the creatures shouted, panic clear in its voice. The crowd shifted, a mass of nervous energy, their grotesque forms flickering in the fog. "There's nothing we can do," another voice muttered, resigned, hollow. "There has to be," came a frantic response. "She can't die. He'll die." Chaos swirled through the fog as the creatures pressed in, desperate, helpless. Then, from the back of the crowd, a deep, steady voice broke through the cacophony. "I know a way." All eyes turned, the murmur of the crowd falling into silence. The figure who spoke was enormous, Malleck, a giant whose presence alone seemed to absorb the shadows. His towering silhouette absorbed the dim light, muscles rippling beneath dark, rough skin, exuding a strength that could break a man with ease. His broad shoulders and the sharp angles of his face gave him the look of a titan who had clawed his way from the depths of the earth, a being forged in a time when creatures of his size ruled without mercy. Malleck projected a menacing persona, a carefully crafted mask of intimidation. It was, at its core, a fragile shield, a performance born from self-preservation. But if you looked beyond that exterior husk, there was something about him that tempered any fear, a gentle restraint in his movements, a perfected stillness. His massive hands, capable of crushing souls, were always steady and careful. His eyes, oversized, dark, and intense, carried the weight of 1,000 years of sorrow and compassion. Beneath the terrifying exterior, he harbored something deeper, something more meaningful, reluctance even, a kindness he could not easily mask but tried to hide. As Malleck tentatively stepped forward, his heavy, deliberate movements made the ground tremble beneath his feet. It was not long before he started to realize the weight of the choice he was about to make. This child was no ordinary child. Malleck knew that much. His birth had summoned powers from beyond the realms of men. His existence meant something far greater than any one life. Saving him meant hope for a world on the edge of collapse. "Quick," one of the others barked, tension rising again. "Whatever it is, just do it. We ain't got time." Malleck didn't move right away, his gaze locked on the frail form of Zivah lying on the ground. His hulking presence alone could make even the bravest of warriors shrink back, but there was hesitation in his eyes. He knew the cost. His voice, though steady, trembled slightly. "If I do this, I'm dead. If I do, I won't be coming back." He hesitated for the briefest of moments. Did he fear death? Number. What Malleck feared was the unknown, this oblivion that waited for him. Questions spun in his head like a spider getting ready for a night of feasting. Would he cease to exist? Would his memories, his essence, simply fade into the void? Or worse, would he linger somewhere, trapped between worlds, with nothing but the regret of what he gave up? "Trust me, Malleck," a voice growled from the crowd, its edge sharp with desperation. "We're all dead if you don't." Malleck slowly nodded before stepping forward through the fog, his immense frame parting the sea of creatures like a force of nature. As terrifying as he appeared, none dared challenge him. He stood over Zivah now, his shadow engulfing her fragile body, and the others watched in nervous anticipation, their eyes gleaming in the dim light. His thick fingers hovered just inches above her, his enormous hands capable of both destruction and salvation. He paused, looking around at the gathered creatures for reassurance, but they gave none. They simply stared, waiting for him to act. One of the beasts behind him gave him a shove, urging him forward. Malleck wasn't bothered. His massive shoulders rolled back as he took a deep breath. Closing his eyes, he bent low over Zivah's body, his large hands trembling slightly above her. Slowly, he opened his eyes again, locking his gaze deep into her, piercing through her flesh, searching for the tiny spark that kept her connected to life. For a moment, nothing happened. "Malleck!" a voice hissed from behind. "Hurry!" Ignoring them, Malleck exhaled, his breath steady, powerful. Then, in a gentle whisper that seemed to carry the weight of eons, he uttered the ancient words that had been buried deep within him. Even Malleck didn't know he knew them until now. The command, spoken in a language older than time, flowed from him like a sweet prayer. The words slipped into the air, wrapping themselves around Zivah like a cocoon. Her body stiffened briefly before relaxing, her eyes fluttering closed as she fell into a deep, otherworldly sleep. In the sky above, a thin silk-like lightning bolt appeared, twisting and winding its way down through the dark clouds. The creatures gasped as it descended, slow and deliberate, before finally piercing Zivah's body. The light penetrated deep into her soul, intertwining with the very essence of her delicate being. The other creatures, wide-eyed, whispered among themselves. Some cowered in fear of what they just witnessed, clutching at the fog as if it might swallow them whole. Others stared in awe, too afraid to move or speak. As the last of Malleck's breath evaded him, his enormous form began to dissolve. The creatures watched in stunned silence as Malleck's body shimmered, dissolving into mist. He gave no cry of pain, no final words. He simply vanished into the fog, his essence scattered by the wind. Did it work? I think so. We'll soon find out. Malleck felt himself pulled from the world, sucked through an endless, twisting void. The stars above blurred, streaking past him like lines of light. Faster and faster he moved, drawn away from the place where he had stood, the place where he had lived. His body felt cold, the sensation of his own form slipping away, becoming something less than tangible. He could almost feel his memories unraveling, like threads fraying from a garment. For a moment he saw the entirety of creation stretched out before him, a vast, incomprehensible tapestry. Then, just as quickly, a blink, even, it all slipped away, becoming no more than a faint memory, like trying to hold on to a dream. Who am I now? Am I still me? Or am I now just part of nothingness? The thoughts lingered in his mind like an echo. Would his identity, too, be stripped away? Was he merely a collection of memories now, soon to be lost in this expanse of nothingness? Everything started to slow down. The pull stopped, and Malleck found himself drifting in a strange, dreamlike place. He was surrounded by a faint glow of distant colors, soft, blurred, like memories that refused to take form. The stars around him flickered, hazy and indistinct, as though viewed from behind an opaque dome. The weightlessness felt disorienting. He felt no ground beneath him, no sensation of being anchored to anything solid. He was alone. His own existence felt tenuous, as though he could drift apart at any moment. There was a strange coldness, not like the chill of air, but a deeper, more hollow cold, a coldness of the soul. "Am I dead?" Malleck muttered to himself, his voice echoing through the space around him. He moved his arms, testing the limits of his form, but found no resistance. "No, I can't be dead. I can still think." He floated there, lost in the haze of the stars, time slipping away. It could have been minutes, hours, or years. He couldn't tell. Then, from every direction at once, a voice spoke. "You are in the nothingness, what you once called it," the voice said, cold and distant. "We call it dark matter." Malleck shuddered. Dark matter. The voice continued, its tone sinister and calm, coming from all around him. "You are far removed from your old life, so distant in time that all who once knew you have forgotten. You see things hazy because you are now inside the dark matter, looking out at the material world." Malleck swallowed hard, his throat tight. The voice's words carried a weight that seemed to press against his very existence. Forgotten. He was one of them once, a protector, a presence. But now the idea that time itself had erased him sent an icy chill through him. "Can I go back?" "No," the voice responded, flat and absolute. "You have no power to take yourself back." "Am I dead then?" Malleck's voice wavered, uncertainty gnawing at him. "Is this it? Is this all that's left for me?" "You might as well be," the voice said with a hint of dark amusement. "But no, you are in what the humans once called purgatory. An in-between place. A place where those who use the old god's wisdom are sent. This is the price you pay, a special kind of prison. Not good, not evil, it just is." Malleck closed his eyes, the weight of the words settling over him like a shroud. Why did I do this? Was it worth it? He had saved a life, but now he was in a place where time and memory meant nothing. But I didn't abuse the power. I used it to save a life. Did it work? Did they survive? "Yes," the voice replied. "The woman and her child were saved. But the child is not so simple." Malleck's eyes snapped open, a knot forming in his chest. "What do you mean?" There was a pause, and then the voice sighed as if recalling an ancient memory. I remember the child's birth, but it's not as clear as it should be. I know the child you speak of, the child who was destined to know the old gods, to walk their paths. But his future is strange." Malleck frowned. "Strange how?" "The child was supposed to be a bridge," the voice continued, its tone thoughtful now. "A bridge between the forgotten wisdom of the past and the chaos of the future. I was there. I was one of the memory keepers." Malleck's breath caught. "A memory keeper?" "Yes," the voice whispered, and Malleck could feel a chill creep down his spine. "I held the memories of every being that ever lived, from the smallest insect to the greatest kings. I knew their fears, their desires, their triumphs, and their failures. I could see everything, the past, the present, and all the possible futures. But there was a price." Malleck felt the weight of those words. A price. He understood sacrifice, but this... Knowledge is a curse, Malleck. When you know everything, you become detached from the world. You see all outcomes, all possibilities, but you cannot act. You cannot interfere. And eventually, you forget what it is to live. I grew tired. I longed to feel again. So I interfered, just once, in the life of a human. A priest. "What happened?" Malleck asked, his voice barely a whisper. The priest was insignificant, a man lost in his doubts, teetering between faith and reason. I whispered to him, guided him, showed him things beyond mortal comprehension. But that act, one simple whisper, broke the rules. The other memory keepers punished me. They took away my sight of the future. Now I see only the past and the now. I am trapped in this dark matter, just like you." Malleck floated in stunned silence, the vastness of the void pressing in on him. "You see," the voice continued, "I once knew the child's fate. But now, it is hidden from me. I see fragments, broken pieces of what could have been. I remember him teaching love, peace, and unity. But there are multiple endings for his life, Malleck, and the most powerful one, the one that mattered, at least the one I think is the most important, has been hidden. Malleck's eyes narrowed as the voice continued. I can remember him dying, the voice said, each word dripping with dread. He was tortured and killed brutally, publicly. I see the crowds chanting on, I see the blood, I see the murder in their eyes, but then... The voice faltered for a moment as if struggling to process its own recollection. Then what? Malleck pressed, his voice rising in urgency. I see him rise back to life, the voice whispered. I see him living again, only to disappear days later, fading into the shadows. There's another version of his death where he fled, hid from the world, becoming a hermit in a distant land. But the final memory, it's blocked. There's nothing. Nothing in the sense that it's not even written. Blocked? Malleck's voice was tight with confusion and frustration. Who could block it? I don't know, the voice muttered, its tone slipping into something close to fear. From what I can tell, someone, or something, has erased the true outcome of the child. I can only see glimpses, fragments, but nothing more. It's like I am trying to explain a dream. Details slip past unnoticed. So he might still be alive, Malleck said, grasping for hope. Or he might be dead, the voice replied coldly. My memory, like everything else in the universe, seems to be manipulated by someone. It is as though reality itself has been rewritten. Maybe he's alive. Malleck stared out at the swirling colors of the void. Could it be that his life was so unremarkable, so far removed from his destiny, that even you can't hold on to it? That's why the memory feels lost. The voice exhaled sharply, the irritation clear. Poor memory? It snapped mockingly. You dare suggest that I could forget? That my grasp is so weak? No, I didn't mean it that way, Malleck quickly replied. I mean, the memory lost, something taken. Could something erase it? There was a long pause. Finally, with reluctance, the voice spoke again. If someone erased it, I would remember the act. The removal itself would be part of my records. But... The voice hesitated as though unwilling to concede. Malleck pressed further. But maybe there is something more powerful. Something even beyond the old gods. A heavy silence followed, and for a moment, Malleck thought the voice wouldn't answer. Then, low and resigned, the voice whispered, Yes, there are forces, ancient, older than even the gods we served, forces that shape existence itself. They do not answer to us. Perhaps one of them found it, necessary to intervene. Necessary, Malleck repeated, a cold realization creeping over him. Necessary for what? The voice chuckled darkly, though there was no amusement in the sound. Perhaps you and I are just pawns in a game far greater than we understand. Malleck floated in stunned silence, the vastness of the void pressing in on him. His mind spun with questions, with doubts, with the nagging feeling that he was closer to the truth than ever before, and yet still hopelessly far from it. A game? Malleck finally muttered, his voice low, disbelieving. What game? The only one that matters, the voice whispered, as if sharing a secret long buried beneath the weight of ages. The game of power, of control. You think you've made a sacrifice, Malleck. You think your death was noble, that you acted on your own free will. Malleck's chest tightened. I acted to save a life. I acted because there was no other choice. And therein lies the trap, the voice replied, its tone filled with grim satisfaction. No other choice. No other path. You see, Malleck, the game is not played by us. We are moved, placed, sacrificed as necessary. Malleck clenched his fists, feeling the cold emptiness of the void tighten around him. Moved by who? By those who have always been in control, the voice hissed. Those who pull the strings behind every decision, every fate. Greater than the old gods, greater than any being you've ever known. We serve them without knowing it, without ever questioning it. I don't serve anyone, Malleck growled, anger rising in his chest, a fire in the cold emptiness. I chose to save the child. That was my decision. Your decision? The voice laughed, this time with genuine amusement, but the sound was hollow, cruel. Do you truly believe that? You played your part, Malleck, just as I did when I whispered to the priest, just as we all do. We are guided, our actions dictated, shaped, and we believe it is our will? Malleck's mind reeled. Could it be true? Had he been nothing more than a piece on a larger board, a pawn in a game he couldn't even see? What? What is this game? Malleck demanded, his voice harsher, more desperate now. Who controls it? Not gods, not mortals, not beings bound by flesh or spirit, but forces, forces older than the universe itself. They whisper in the silence, shift the tides of fate. They use the old gods as puppets, just as the gods use mortals. And we... The voice trailed off, a hint of weariness seeping into its once condescending tone. Pawns. Malleck finished the thought, his voice hollow. You said we are pawns. Yes, pawns. And pawns are the first to be sacrificed when the stakes rise. Malleck's thoughts raced, the weight of the voice's words pressing down on him like a vice. The child. Had it all been part of some larger design? Was his sacrifice meaningless, orchestrated from the start? And if so, for what purpose? He struggled to maintain his composure, but doubt gnawed at him. If we are pawns, what is the endgame? What do they want? The voice was silent for a long moment, as if considering whether to reveal a truth too terrible to speak. When it finally answered, the voice was quieter, almost resigned. The endgame? The endgame is always the same, Malleck. It's not about winning. It's about balance. Balance? Malleck echoed, his brow furrowed. Balance between what? Between creation and destruction, between existence and oblivion. It's a cycle, one that repeats over and over. Universes are born, they die, and in the in-between there is chaos. The forces that control us, they don't want the chaos. They seek to maintain the balance, to prevent the cycle from being disrupted. And the child? Malleck's voice sharpened, a knot of fear twisting in his chest. What role does he play in all this? Is he meant to keep this going, or destroy it? The voice sighed, a sound that echoed through the emptiness like a distant storm. That is the question, isn't it? That is what even they, the ones who control the game, cannot fully see. The child, he is the anomaly. He is the piece that doesn't fit. He could tip the balance, either toward creation or toward destruction. Malleck's heart pounded in his chest, the gravity of the revelation sinking in. Then my sacrifice, it was for nothing. No, the voice whispered, its tone growing darker, heavier. Your sacrifice was necessary, to keep the child alive, to keep the game in motion. But what happens next is beyond your control. You need to come to terms with that. Malleck's mind swirled with fear and uncertainty. If the child was the key to tipping the balance, then everything he had done, every life he had touched, was part of something far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. What happens next? Malleck demanded, desperation seeping into his voice. Tell me. The voice paused again, as if savoring the moment. Then, with a cold finality, it answered, What happens next depends on the others. Malleck's breath caught in his throat. Others. Yes, the voice whispered, the darkness around them seeming to tighten. Others like you. Pawns, pieces placed on the board. Some of them know the child, and some will stop at nothing to ensure he never fulfills his role. Malleck's chest tightened. Who are they? Where are they? They are everywhere, the voice replied, its tone shifting as if it were fading into the vastness of the void. And they are watching. Even now. A cold chill ran down Malleck's spine as he realized the full weight of the situation. Forces were in motion, forces he couldn't begin to understand. And worse, the game was far from over. But who do I fight? Malleck's voice cracked, panic edging into his words. The voice, now barely more than a whisper in the dark, replied, The question isn't who you fight, Malleck. It's whether you can trust anyone at all. Before Malleck could respond, a sudden pulse of energy ripped through the void, and the voice fell silent, swallowed by the darkness. Malleck now alone, drifting, his mind racing with questions he feared he might never get the answers to. And in that moment he understood. To him, the real game had only just begun. This chapter may have ended, but the story doesn't. Return next Monday for what waits in the dark. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and leave a comment to share what the shadows may have whispered to you.